Greetings. We've reached chapter 18 of Kenneth Latourette, History of Christianity. The title now is Revival Through Monasticism, the Rich and Varied Development of the Monastic Ideal in Western Europe. Recovery from the decline which Christianity had suffered in Western Europe between the years 500 and 950 found expression and was furthered through fresh monastic movements. These became more numerous and took on greater variety than ever before. Indeed, in diversity, they were very much more marked than in the eastern wing of the Catholic Church or than in any other of the Eastern churches. Here we may note is one of the criteria of vitality in the Christian community. At the times when the tide of life is running low, few new movements appear. When the Christian faith is coursing with vigor through its visible manifestations, old movements are rejuvenated and new ones are born. In the Catholic Church, some of the major manifestations of these revivals have been in monasticism, seeking to attain to the Christian standard of perfection and so to obtain eternal life in heaven. Men and women reared in the Catholic Church, quite understandably, turn to the monastic ideal and either enter existing orders or form fresh ones. In their zeal, they may create novel forms of monasticism. It is therefore one of the chief evidences of the awakening that came in the western wing of the Catholic Church that in the second half of the century, many existing monasteries were reformed and that new monastic communities sprang up. Closely associated with these movements were others which sought to embody the gospel and to win nominal Christians to conform to it, but which the Catholic Church deemed heretical. More intimately related than in the latter were efforts to purge the whole church of the corruption that was so obvious and so tragic, to bring all of Western Christendom to a closer approximation to Christian standards, and to spread the Western faith to peoples who had not yet accepted it. Monastic movements continued to multiply throughout the 4 centuries from 950 to 1350 and reached a crest in the 13th century. As we have seen, monastic life had fallen to a low level in the latter part of the 9th and the forepart of the 10th century. The invasions of Northmen, Muslims, and Magyars had laid many monasteries in ruins. Countless monks had been killed or driven into the cities. In numbers of monasteries, secular princes had diverted the endowments to their own purposes. They turned over to the monasteries only part of the revenues and allowed the enrollment of the monks to fall off. In many others, lay patrons had appointed as abbots men who valued the post as a means of livelihood, who were married and who brought to the monasteries their families, their warriors, their horses, and their hunting dogs. Numbers of monks married and dwelt in the monastic buildings with their wives and children. The canons, members of the groups of clergy who lived by a semi-monastic rule in collegiate churches and cathedrals, conformed even more easily to the world than did the monks. In some monasteries, canons were substituted for monks, for they did not have to hold as closely to the Benedictine rule as did the latter. Now the first hints of awakenings. A generation or more before 950, there had been stirrings of reform. Now and again, synods deplored the decay of monastic life, but did little to effect the change. Some monasteries, but how many we do not know, maintained a fairly strict observance of the Benedictine rule. Here and there, new ones were founded. The influence of Benedict of Aniane, that is Aniane, waned, but did not die. Thus, in 933, or around then, John of Gorze, Gorze, John of Gorze, founded the abbey by which he is known. It was near Metz, and its influence made itself felt from Cologne to Tours. Near Namur Gerhard inaugurated the monastery of Brogne, that is Brogne, and gave a stimulus to better monastic life in Flanders. Both Gorze and Brogne followed in part the lead of Benedict of Aniane with his emphasis upon liturgical prayer, his lengthening of the services, and his tendency to discourage both agricultural labor by the monks and the teaching of those not of the monastic community. Next time, the Cluny movement. I put in a link this time to the rise of monasticism. Earlier in the Latourette series, we dealt with this in videos 49 and 50, so I'll attach 49 here, and if you want to follow the links. Also the Latourette playlist, which now goes to 140 videos. See you next time.